HRS-i series from Speakercraft, and let's go through it. We'll show you what it's all about. So one of the sort of legacies that transitioning right now from our speaker companies is the Sunfire brand. Sunfire brand has been around for decades, and the founder of Sunfire, Mr. Bob Carver, he started in the audiophile industry back in 1971. So tremendous amount of influence into the speaker industry, into the electronics industry of amplification, and really did something that no one else could sort of figure out how to do. First of all, he was really disruptive in the marketplace with really unconventional amplifier designs. He was able to make an amplifier out of products and devices and shapes and sizes that many traditional amplifier companies said you simply couldn't do, but he did it. Another thing he invented was something called high-back EMF. And high-back EMF was basically a defining law. Well, he defined the Hoffman 3 laws, and he broke the laws. Basically said if a subwoofer was going to be efficient, it would play low in bass frequency, but it wouldn't be in a small box. And if it was in a small box, it wouldn't be efficient and it wouldn't play low. So these three combinations, you could only have 2 of the laws apply and not all 3. And you couldn't have it efficient, you couldn't have it small, and you couldn't have bass extension. So in 1994, Bob Carver broke these laws and hit the industry as the world's smallest, most powerful subwoofer design in the marketplace, and brought decades of high performance subwoofers to both entry level, medium home theater, and of course into high-end esoteric audio as well. And those designs and innovations are still used today. And we're going to talk about how we've sort of transitioned some of our new Speakercraft product with the legacy of Sunfire and these developments. Next. So the legacy lives on, and that's what brings us today. So we're going to take some of those fundamental things that we learned just a few seconds ago about Sunfire, and we're going to bring them in now into the Speakercraft brand. So this is our new 2021 new subwoofer lineup for Speakercraft. Many of you are aware of the SDS line. This is a first for both Sunfire innovation design and the first for Speakercraft as well. This is the first time we've ever made a triple woofer drive. And typical reasons why we don't do a triple woofer drive is just getting the phase and the coherence of the subwoofers to work in the room and to sound acoustically properly is always a very challenge. We broke that innovation. We took our single active SDS with single passive design, and we went to a single active woofer with dual passive. So this is a brand new footprint, brand new physical design for us as far as cabinets, woofers, and amplifiers, and really gets into setting up the new SDSi series as the next level, the next generation from the legacy SDS. Next up is what we're going to talk today about, and that's the HRS-i series. It's always traditionally been in a very small, ultra compact box, which we are keeping in its tradition. We have the same 3 sizes available, the 8-inch, 10-inch, and 12-inch. We kept the kilowatt or the 1,000-watt high-powered amplifier rating. We've designed a new MDF cabinet, but kept it in the legacy high-gloss piano black finish. So this unit looks beautiful, but it has nice curved linear corners on it and edges on it, so it looks really, really smooth. And it's got a sort of a nicer or richer, that next gen cabinet finish. We've kept the performance, of course, with the traditional HRS series, but we wanted to improve it. We wanted to do what we did with the SDSi series. So the SDSi series plays 30% louder and 20% lower. The new HRS series does the exact same thing. We're able to play lower in frequency and play louder and lower frequency. So that was sort of our innovation with the HRS, and it's a true high back design. So very traditional to what we are experiencing or what we have experienced in the HRS series. Next up is the XTEQ. We're going to be looking at that. That's our best in show. The XTEQ is our flagship product, and we're going to be talking a little bit about that on next month's new subwoofer launch. So this is our SDS series. As I mentioned before, it's a single active dual passive. We've introduced a new size. So we have 8, 10-inch, 12-inch, and 15-inch woofers now. Power ratings were very similar to the legacy SDS line, which is 400, 500, 600, with a new 1,000-watt power rating for our 1515. As I mentioned earlier, these are 30% louder. They play 20% lower than the previous series. And we've also integrated some new built-in 5-volt USB power supplies. We've reduced the footprint of this unit here. It's more of a cube versus an upright rectangle. So we're able to reduce the footprint over the legacy series to the new SDSi. And of course, these units now should be in your warehouse, and they've been shipping now for just over 2 months. So as I said, the lineup is very close in the retail pricing of what the SDS Legacy Series was. So the SDSi-8 now has a closer performance to the legacy SDS-10. So our new 8 plays like a 10, and our new 10 plays like a 12, and so on and so on. So we're able to get more subwoofer output, more power and control, and more frequency response, lower frequency response, with smaller woofer applications. MSRPs are $600, $700, $800, and just under $1,000 for the 15-inch application. And this is a tremendous hit point into the marketplace, because there is not currently a triple subwoofer application in the 15-inch with this power and performance under the $1,000 MSRP. Next. So let's talk a little bit about the HRS and some of its legendary high back EMF design. So as we learned from Hoffman's theory, if we built a subwoofer that was efficient, it could play low, the box would not be small. If we made it small, it wouldn't be efficient, and it would constantly run into this loop of changes. So we had some challenges, and that was to build a small box subwoofer with large amounts of bass output to give us the bass extension that we needed. But all that was available in the marketplace was a conventional driver. So our solution is that we had to play with the amplifier. We couldn't go with average amplifiers or typical amplifier powers that we see in the marketplace today. We had to take the power factor and increase it by 10-fold. So that's why you see 1,000-watt amplifiers built into an 8-inch, 10-inch, and 12-inch. So with that 1,000-watt amplifier, we had to customize some very high-powered over motor size or very large magnet woofer drivers in order for it to handle the power handling. And then with that, all that power handling, and in such a small box, we had to figure out how to handle the heat. So we had to build drivers with large magnetic motors, large voice coils, and of course, in order to produce and handle that power and to produce a large amount of bass output, we had to greatly increase the excursion, or how much the woofer moves in and out. It's called an X-max. So once we figured out that we had to take the power factor by 10-fold, over design and over build the driver, give it a huge amount of throw and the ability to cool in a reasonably small box, we were able to break the Hoffman's law in yielding all three. We have something that's small, we have something that's efficient, and we have something that has bass extension. So that was the legendary high back EMF design, and we continue that on, as you see there in the image, with the HRS-i series in our next gen. Next. So here's the lineup on HRS-i. The I stands for international, and that gives the ability for anyone in the world to use the same model, whether it's local, domestic into US or anywhere else into the world platform. It has a dual voltage built in. It comes with a beautiful, very vibrant orange sticker that covers the power plug when you first open it up. So depending on what area that you'll be in, the first thing you'll need to do is take the orange sticker off, make sure you're on the right power for your location, plug it in, and start to enjoy. So as I mentioned before, this is an 8, 10, and 12 active woofer with 1,000-watt power rating. We've added a very unique feature into our next gen, and that's an app-based setup and control using low voltage or low wattage Bluetooth. And this will give you the ability to eliminate having to go back and forth between the seating position to the subwoofer position to make your adjustments. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. As I mentioned before, it's high back EMF design, black piano gloss finish. And of course, we've kept the sunfire tradition of making a very well-engineered, very high surface area, rubber-based feet to make sure that that the cabinets do not move or shift in their position into the room. Next. Here's the lineup and MSRPs. So our HRS-i-8 is $1,100, 10 is $1,200, and the 12 is $1,400. So very similar price to the previous series, and we wanted to make sure that we stayed within range. Everything is moving basically between $50 and $90 from the Legacy series. Next. Also in transition from the Sunfire series, we kept the HRS-i-8. This is a dual 8-inch high performance in-wall sealed cabinet subwoofer. This also uses the high back EMF design. So we also have figured out a way, we use something called a vibration-free wall design, and that's a counterweight. So there's two smaller speakers or a counterweight that's built inside this woofer, and every time the 8-inch drivers move, this counterweight moves in the opposite direction, basically designing a still-free cabinet. So when we say vibration-free in-wall design, it is like no other product that's onto the market. When you bring this product into the 2x4, the stud location, or use the dog legs, whichever way you decide to mount this, because this can be done in new construction or in post construction with the dog leg system. This allows that the subwoofer cabinet itself does not move, it does not annoy, it does not vibrate anywhere into its environment. Eliminating wall noise and rattles is probably the #1 concern when installing in-wall subwoofers, because that's the #1 sort of thing that happens with in-wall subwoofers within the first year of installation. So anyone that's familiar with it understands the challenges, and this unit here solves it right from its design. Power handling is 150 to 600 watts peak. Great frequency response. Of course, as we said, it's retrofit mounting, and the bezel is completely paintable as well as magnetic. Next. This also comes over and remains a Sunfire brand. This is our HRS-i-8 amp. This is a custom design amplifier, specifically EQ'd and specifically designed to work with the HRS-i-8 cabinet speaker. So the best way to marry this system together is for the amplifier and the woofer together. If you do use external amplifiers, you'll need to make sure that they have some subwoofer frequency equalization adjustability. With the HRS-i-8 amp, all that frequency and all that equalizing for the subwoofer was designed intrinsically for the two of them to work together. This unit here runs with 520 watts of power, and will reach a maximum output of 103 dB, which is a lot. It's a lot for an in-wall subwoofer to hit that type of SPL. We always recommend using dual subwoofers in your application, and this is a great way to do seating pressurization or to localize a little bit of pressure into the back row. Dual subwoofers do have a lot of advantages. We'll talk a bit about that as we go through here. We have selectable crossover slopes, which is something that you typically do not get in dedicated amplifiers, or you don't get enough control in the AVR themselves. So you have the ability of adjusting the crossover slope from 12 to 24 to 36 dB. Great frequency response, of course. We have a variable phase and a low pass LFE bypass. And we've kept the mid to higher end level of input signals. So we have RCA line level in, and we have a balanced XLR signal input. Anyone that's using balance knows that it's a great way to run low level signal over long distances, virtually noise free. Next. So our targeted selling tools. Why is it that the subwoofer is doing? Why is it that so many people want them? And then those who do not have subwoofers sometimes are some of the hardest to convince, or the hardest to influence, whether they should or should not have them. So we know right now that subwoofers are needed, not just for music, but they're also needed for home theater. And they're not just needed for home theater, they're also needed for music. And really, subwoofers complete the music and the harmonies, the octaves. Music score and music on their own and score soundtracks occupy about 70% of most movies. And of course, with harmonies and octaves, this means that the instruments themselves, whether it's a drum kit, a bass guitar, a saxophone, a piano, a male or female vocalist, all of those octaves and harmonies come into the subwoofer audio range. So it's very important that a subwoofer is present, and most importantly, it's equalized and leveled properly into the room, so it does disappear to the same level as the rest of the speakers. It's when it's at the incorrect level or higher than it should be level is when the subwoofers can sometimes be seen as a nuisance simply because it's not installed properly. So which is better as far as sealed, ported, and woofer design? There's a lot of different designs out there. We know that the ported designs do play louder, but they do make a little bit of the unwanted noise. That's the air noise from the port itself on high volume. And then we do like the smaller cabinet, but typically smaller cabinets have a little bit of a larger footprint. So with the high back EMF design, we're able to make a smaller sealed cabinet that's mechanically very, very quiet. And in our SDSI line, we're able to use dual passive woofers. So we have the benefits of both a ported and a sealed enclosure without any mechanical noise. So I always recommend either a sealed, which will cost you a little bit more, but it will actually perform, be very accurate in the music response and home theater response. Or if there was another decision, it would be the passive radiators in our SDSI line. So what size of room do I need? Typically for 150 square feet, we do recommend an 8 to 10 inch woofer. That is fine for pressurizing, getting low bass frequency response, especially with our extended bass with the new Speakercraft designs. You'll be getting great audio performance, quick attack, of course, with 8 and 10 inch, very fast recovery for musicality. In larger rooms, we do recommend anywhere from a 12 to a 15, and that's for a 200 square foot room and higher. And our new smaller models outperform a lot of the larger models in less space. So even though you may be somewhere between 150 to 200 square feet, and you think a 10 inch is an application that will work, look at both the HRSi and the SDSI as a good offer for that solution. Why is adding a second subwoofer so important? I get this question a lot, and we do an effective training. It's a standalone training for dual subwoofers. And we've learned over from the Harman Group and Dr. Floyd Toole and so many different experts into the field out there, we've learned that a single sub application is about 15% effective to a single listener position, which means a single sub and a single listener can really get dialed in and get a great response and a great performance from that location, if the location of the subwoofer is ideal, because typically the listener position is kind of set. But when you add two subwoofers, that listener position and the subwoofer position location does not become as intrinsic and as important to the listener. So with two subwoofers, you can go into a couple of different designs, whether it's going to be front back or corner load or 25% in. There's a high effective rate. It's over 90% to give more even bass to more multiple listeners in a room with the dual subwoofer design. So some people go with a single larger application. We always recommend maybe two smaller subs, an 8 and a 10, a 10 and a 12, something that really covers the frequency range that you want for the room size that you have. But the two subs will effectively give more even bass to multiple listeners. So we always recommend as a selling tool to go with dual subs. They don't necessarily need to be larger, they just need to be in the room. Next. To help you with your everyday opportunity with the HRSi for equalizing and level setting, the unit comes now with a Speakercraft substation, which is downloadable on iOS and Android. And once you download it into your phone, you'll be asked on the second image that you see there, peripherals, you can name your device, name your subwoofer. Maybe it's subwoofer 1, subwoofer 2, or home theater 1, home theater 2. The unit will automatically scan for available subs, and you can pair your app now with your subwoofer. You can also pair multiple subwoofers to your app as well, and each one will have an individual name as you type it in. Now that you've paired with the subwoofer app, you have, as an end user, the ability to have volume control, normal music and movie, equalization presets. You have a night mode, so you can turn on dynamic range compression, so the big sounds don't sound as loud and the small sounds don't sound as quiet. So night mode is a great application. And these are some of the features that we want to make sure that the end user, the consumer, has the ability to adjust. If you go to the next slide, you'll see our installer mode with the app. So what you do is you go up to the top logo, you hold Speakercraft for 15 seconds, And once you hold Speakercraft for 15 seconds, you'll open up the installer mode of the application. Now on the left menu, you'll see there's volume, crossover, phase, delay, manual EQ, auto EQ, port tune, setting, support, about, and help. This will give the installer all the abilities to do exactly what it is that you would like to adjust about the subwoofer, but those controls are no longer on the back of the unit. So you have your delay, you have a variable, and you have AVR. You can have this measure in feet and meters. You have crossover, which is variable, which is very important when setting up a subwoofer. Always try to choose a subwoofer that has a variable crossover. That will absolutely be vitally important. We can change our slopes as well, similar to the previous HRSi-8 amp from 12, 18 to 24. The sharper the slope, the less higher frequency you'll get from the subwoofer in transition between the crossover points. So having a slope adjustment is very good installation. Of course, phase is variable as well. This is the most vital piece. If the subwoofer is in the front of the room, it's at 0 phase in line with the speaker. If it's in a quarter, it's at 45. Left to the listener or right to the listener, it's at 90, 270, and 180 at the back of the room. So having variable phase is really important when equalizing and setting up the subwoofer levels into the listening area. And then finally to the right, you have the ability to do the timeout in auto sense, and you have a 12-volt trigger as well. So now with the auto sense, you can have the unit timeout in 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes. Depending on what the home user, if they do, if they're mostly for audio or mostly for home theater, maybe some quieter tracks. This way the auto sense can time out over a longer period of time. Next. One of the strong features that's built into the app, and one of the things that we really wanted to make sure in the next gen with the HRS is that we've included a auto room correction with DSP. So digital signal processing gives us the ability to analyze the frequency response of the room in relationship to the speakers. And then what we do is we make measurements and we adjust the equalization or adjust the sound and the effects of the room back to the subwoofer itself. So when you're using your iPhone or Android and you're in the auto reequalization mode, you would turn your phone upside down, very similar to some other manufacturers. You would hit the room tune, and you can have the ability to auto room correct in three different samples. So you can do a sample 1 from single listening position, sample 2 from another listening position, of course sample 3, and it will listen to all 3 equalization curves and then do the room correction as it's designed to do. This way you get the flexibility of now having the subwoofer placed aesthetically or maybe physically in the room where it may have some limitations for design, but now have the performance that you would like of the relationship of having the subwoofer exactly where it needs to be for the listener position. So we've now removed the criticalness of the subwoofer position in relationship to the listener. We have more flexibility to place the subwoofer in more maybe design areas or feature build areas and still get the performance of having the subwoofer in the perfect physical position using the auto EQ circuitry. So that's a brand new feature that we've added into the app control. And this is vital. We have a subwoofer training course as far as a subwoofer placement training course that we'll offer into next month, and it's something that we can go in a little bit deeper with. Next. So now that you have your subwoofers installed into the room, you may find that adding a second subwoofer could be somewhat troublesome because you may not have an existing extra wire running out to that second subwoofer to allow either front room or side room application for the dual. We have been shipping now, and we released a wireless subwoofer audio kit. This wireless subwoofer audio kit works in the subwoofer frequency, so nothing above 600 hertz. And we've eliminated any need of the audio signal wires going to the subwoofer because we have a transmitter and a receiver kit. Comes with a power supply, comes with all the audio cables that you need, and the USB cord to power the wireless receiver from the USB output of the back of our subwoofers. So this is that USB power and docking station is built into the SDSI, HRSi, and the XTEQ. So every one of the models now will have the ability for you to add on a subwoofer wireless kit. And each one of the wireless kits can have a maximum of 4 receivers. So you can buy an additional receiver for $119, and you can now run up to 4 subwoofers in any environment, completely wireless off a single transmitter. Next. This is vitally important in subwoofer placement, as I mentioned earlier. Placing the subwoofer in the optimal location is probably best for the optimal location for the listener, but it may not be where it may be cluttery. You may need to clean up your settings, or you may need to clean up your where it's actually placed into the room may not physically be according to the design. And adding multiple subwoofers doubles that aspect. So without DSP, without room correction, and without the combination of wireless kits, you're somewhat limited in putting multiple subwoofer applications. So we wanted to make sure that we had the trifecta worked out. First, we had better performing subwoofers. Second, we had a wireless capability of sending signal to our subwoofers. Now that the subwoofer is getting signal, we can run our auto room correction DSP. So we can really dial in exactly where the subwoofer needs to be with the least amount of limitations to the customers or to the application. Next. Marketing support. If you haven't been to the new Speakercraft website, it's fantastic. We've added a lot of new banners into social media, so more and more people out there today are seeing and hearing more about our new high-powered subs, our HRS, SDSI, and also our new XTEQ, which we'll shoot out next month. If you go to our website, you're looking for data sheets. We have data sheets available on each one of these series. On the back, we'll also talk about the application and where to find it from, as well as the wireless application. And to the right, you'll see some of the web pages. The Speakercraft website is written towards the end user. It's written towards the person that purchases the product and enjoys it into their home. If there's any sort of specific information or marketing information you requires a distributor or a dealer, let us know. We have a great portal option with Nortec Control, and that gives you the ability for all the flyers, marketing, media, brochures, and image files that you may need for your company or website as well. Next. So the conversion chart is a very popular piece that we've been working on because a lot of the many years of Sunfire, we'd like to know what is the new equivalent in the new series, the next generation. So this is a conversion chart that's also available onto the website, and you can find out how the SDS and the SDSI lines transition, also with the HRS to the HRSi line. The HRSi-8 cab and amplifier are basically a straight transition and remain, the amplifier remains as a sunfire amplifier, and the in-wall subwoofer is switched over as a Speakercraft product, so it's boxed as Speakercraft as well. And of course, last but not least, the XTEQ lineup with our new XTEQ-12, which we'll talk about next month. Very exciting. But this conversion chart's available for your sales staff. It's available for your dealers. We can have counter mats print out. We can have brochures printed for you. If you have local printing, that's always kind of best if you're international. But yes, we want to make sure that everyone understands the transition of the line and what the next generation and the equivalents are. Next. So let's take a moment. We just went a minute or two over. It was a bit of a bumpy start there, but it is a Monday, and I want to open up the microphones. Raphael, if you could open up the mics, and we'll start take a few minutes for if anyone has any questions.
All right. So all microphones should be unmuted on our end. So if you want to go ahead and ask a question, please don't hesitate to ask. We're here for you.
I think the chat room is open up as well, is it not?
Yep, chat is open. No questions have come in there yet, but if you want, put the question in chat. You can unmute your line and ask. Either one works for us. Rod wants to know a little bit more about the wireless sub unit. What exactly are you looking for, Rod? frequency range is what he's looking for.
So the frequency range is 20 to 600, 20 hertz to 600 hertz. That's the audio frequency range. It's working on 5.4 gigahertz hopping frequency, which means that it will actually transition around 10 different frequencies and always make sure it's scanning for the cleanest and the clearest with the least amount of noise floor. And our range distance in average environment, we have between 31 and 35 feet. In clear line of sight, we were almost up to 70 feet on an average. But we wanted to make sure that in urban city settings, it is where we have lots of RF and lots of antennas. We want to make sure it has a very good, very reasonable average distance. So 30 to 35 feet in high city urban areas was our performance, and we get even more than that as you get out of the city central areas. And most AVR receivers will only give the ability to adjust up to 30 to 35 feet on the subwoofer output and distancing and delay. So if it is home theater, that is right into the pocket range. Yes, we're using.
Good. Go ahead.
Yeah, I see that is that international, and yes, there is a little bit of a difference into the international frequency, and I can get a little bit more of that information after the call to you, and we can sort of discuss. We have to use a different radio chip for the international units. The performance and the distancing is the same. Of course, as you go in between cinder block versus steel construction versus latten plaster, high levels of minerals, metals, obviously radios need to go outside of metal racks and be sort of free and clear, kind of similar to Wi-Fi and RF frequency. So to get the greatest distance, make sure that your transmitter and receivers are wide open air and have a good distance from any large metal or concrete walls. Good question, Rod.
All right, any other questions? You can, like I said, chat line is unmuted, so you can just unmute maybe on your end, or you can put it in the chat, whichever. Well, I mean, we'll stay on here as long as anybody wants us to answer any questions.
So one of the things we had come up, Raphael, in development was we had some feedback from dealers about how the grills attached in the HRS series, and very traditional, design that had the pin in the plug, and that was kind of the way to do it when the HRS series was designed. So what we've done now is a new sort of rotational neo-magnet design that's integrated into the grill bracket itself. So we've moved away from the pin and plug design. We've moved into a very strong, very high-powered magnetic grill system. So if you haven't had a chance to sort of play with some of the Speakercraft in-ceiling speakers for some strange reason, you'd understand that this neo-magnet system has a really strong pound of force sort of attachment. Well, on the subwoofers, because the HRS series have so much mechanical force and so much mechanical power, we wanted to make sure that the grill design and its magnetic force was equal to its physical force. So when you get these subwoofers in and start playing with them, pop the grill off. They do ship with the grill off, but yeah, just kind of watch your fingers when that grill gets close. What's really nice about it, it will auto center, auto align, so the grill will always be in its absolute position. And the neo magnet design allows this to be held, whether the grill is turned 90 degrees or 180. There is no up and down. It's symmetrical. So that was one of the fun parts of the new design.
Awesome, good to know.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions? Okay, good.
Yeah, running two subwoofer outputs. So when connecting two subwoofer outputs, if you only have a single subwoofer output on the AVR receiver, you can run two subwoofer outputs or 2 subwoofers, if you use a Y adapter, and that will sort of split the signal. And the only drawback with the AVR is it only has 1 DSP setting. So you may want to sort of find the balance between the 2 subs integration to find the right delay in DSP. So that would be a little bit of a challenge. If you can find an AVR that has 2 or 3 or 4, today now, many of the new higher level AVRs are coming with 2 separate outputs. So that would give you 2 different crossovers, 2 different gain controls, 2 different phase controls, and also 2 different delays. So you can really dial in 2 subwoofers into the room and then equalize them, of course, to the seating position. And it makes a phenomenal application. So if it is a new system and it's a new design, I do recommend dual subwoofers with a dual subwoofer output AVR. It would really make the integration work best. Another question came up, is the grill fabric or metal? The grill is fabric. It's a high tension fabric that's over an MDF design that has the magnets built in. But again, similar to the previous, it's a stretchy fabric. It's got a very nice sort of decor look and fit and finish. It's a matte finish. It's a little thicker than what we traditionally use on our grill designs, but it is a fabric finish, fabric color, black. Are there any switches on the back of the subwoofer? On the HRS-i, no. There are no physical switches anymore on the back of the subwoofer. Everything is moved over to the Bluetooth low energy application. And without the app, you do not have the ability to adjust the volume controls, crossover, phase on the sub. So it really eliminates a lot of user interface with the subwoofer. Of course, they would have the application in the user mode, so they'd have the ability to turn up and down the subwoofer and hit their preset EQs. But it isn't until you get into the installer mode that you'd have the ability to change phase, crossover, or do an auto retune or reconnect. So yeah, we think it's very reliable to take the physical pots and variable rheostats and switches off the back of the subwoofers, because over the years we have found that there could sometimes be sort of a long-term failure rate, as those switches sometimes never move for many years and they get a little staticky.
Awesome. Well, I think we've gone over a little bit here more, but some great questions that came in here. We appreciate it. So I want to say thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it. If you've not brought these in yet, please bring them in. They sound amazing. And like I said, thank you so much. Wade, anything you want to add?
If you are bringing in our product, remember these high back EMF drivers are very, very rigid motors. So when you buy them, think of them like a brand new set of dress shoes. They will need about 40, 50, maybe 60 hours of break-in time before they get broken in into the frequencies that they were designed and tested on. So if you do get any new product, put them on demo, open them up, play them as much as you want. Break-in period is normally moderate volume, so it's about mid volume. It's not quite 80-90%, but it's definitely anywhere from 40 to 60% of the volume. Break in the subwoofer, get those motors, those woofers broken in, and it will really make a tremendous difference when you're demoing the subs.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to myself, Wade, or even your local RSM, or if you're international, your international manager, regional sales manager too. So we appreciate it, and everyone stay safe. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day.